Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my live streams. And my audio just went out, just that moment. So bear with me as I attempt to make a couple of changes to this thing. Bear with me, people. Bear with me. Let's see if I can actually get it switched over because it is not working. And I think we are back. There we go. There we go. I can actually hear myself, and hopefully you can hear me as well. So it is good to see you all. Mr. Comic is like, it's good to see you, Reggie. No, Mr. Comic 89. It's good to see you. It is Friday. It is Friday. I took the day off from work. I did a little work, but I took the day off from work, and it has been fantastic. Took the family to an empty park not too far away from the house. We were outside in the fresh air and the sunlight, and it was fantastic. Vitamin D is the greatest drug ever. Having a little sun on your skin does so much for you. Let me tell you, it was awesome. But I am back, and I wanted to jump on here and hang out with you guys for just a little bit. Let me say hello to a couple of comic book soldiers that are in the room. Herb and Legend, how you doing, brother? Matt is in here. Hydro Collectibles over in the UK. How you doing? Nikki is here, scrolling down through the names. Clearly someone got the message that his name has been officially changed to Young Matthew. It is good to see you, my friend. Tina is in the house. Tina, it's good to see you. Randy Resnake is in here. It is always good to see you, my friend. Young Matthew has a great sense of humor. Let me tell you, I can't help but laugh now every time I see his name repeatedly as I'm scrolling down the list. Mr. Comic 89, how you doing, brother? Ariel is in the house. How you doing? Paul, long time no talk to, bro. I mean, we literally talked, 5 minutes ago on the direct messages over on the Instagram machine. So it's good to see you, my friend. Thank you for joining the live stream. Scrolling down through the names, seeing who else we can say hello to. Comic Collection Agency, bro. It is always good to see you, my friend. Thank you for the emails over the last couple of days. Crypt Keeper is in the house. High Voltage Mark. It is good to see you. Eddie Torres is in the house. Again, I want to thank you guys for hanging out just a little bit. We are going to do a little bit of some cooler talk. Water cooler talk. We're gonna come around the proverbial water cooler, and we're gonna talk about some things that may be top of mind for you guys, some stuff that may be top of mind for me, and then I also want to touch on some news that I've kind of seen over the last hour or so, and I thought that it was really compelling. You know, I enjoy the power of the written word. And when I see someone that has written something that says more than just the words on a page, I'll sometimes like to take a little pause to acknowledge what someone is talking about. And I actually want to do that. And then, like I said, we will chat about whatever it is that you guys want to talk about. And if you throw your comments and stuff like that up for me in all caps, it will actually help me to be able to see it a little bit better. But I wanted to take a couple of moments to actually talk about this notice that came out from Boom Studios. And Boom Studios, I think it was their CEO, actually released a statement. And he reiterates his allegiance to comic shops in what they call an open letter, but I think it was actually more of a video. But I want to read you guys a little bit of some excerpts from this letter from this guy right here. This guy right here is the CEO of, or the president or something like that, of Boom Studios. And Boom is doing a lot of really cool stuff right now. They are not shy. They are speaking out. They're doing deals with Netflix. They're doing some stuff. So it says here, to our retail partners, a new day will dawn for the direct market. I believe that we must rise to meet this rebirth by recommitting to who we are and what makes comic book stores special. Soon we will have new comics to sell. When that moment comes, every comic shop will have a fresh start. Each store has their own new day one in the future. Some parts of the world will open before others to ensure safety. Comic shops won't have a single uniform day one. One size does not fit all, but the one thing that is certain, your customers will return And on your new day one, you will have an opportunity you haven't had since you first opened your store, the chance to make a first impression. How do I know that your comic book customers are coming back? Because you sell community. Community is what makes comic book stores special. And he talks about here before this thing that happened, customers could buy comic books online at the click of a few buttons. Many websites sold cheaper than you could even ship them for. Your customers could read the newest stories instantly when they woke up through digital apps. None of this information is new or secret. If price or convenience was the only thing driving a customer's decision to purchase, there would be no foot traffic in comic book stores after the widespread adoption of the internet. None at all. But comic book fans didn't exclusively buy new releases off of the internet or an app. They bought them at your store because you sell community. That's why I love comic book shops. Where else can you talk about Saga coming back? Now, I don't debate who's stronger, Superman or Incredible Hulk, but I've been there when two people, neither of whom worked at a job when the boss or coworker wanted to debate this, started discussing it, and it asked me what I thought. And in case you didn't know, I have a shrine to the original superhero in my office. So he goes on to kind of talk here about a few things about, this is really a fantastic opportunity for new comic shops or for comic shops to turn over a new leaf, to have a fresh start, this new day one that he is talking about. And we've all been to those comic shops where you go in and person never actually speaks to you, right? I think what he is basically saying to comic shops is that things are going to return. Things are going to come back. And you as comic shop owners have an opportunity to hit the reset button and to have a fresh start. And his idea around this idea of community is something that I believe. I've been in the comic shop. You guys have been in the comic shop when people come in and start having these debates, just perfect strangers having debates and discussions about comics, because it's fun, right? It is essentially what you guys are probably doing right now. If you're watching this as part of the live chat, you are having a discussion with your buddies, your friends around this central passion, this central idea of comics. And that's essentially what happens in local comic shops all the time. And I've been to local comic shops all across the country. This is what, in my opinion, makes comic shops really special. And there are some shops that actually get it right and they foster that sense of community. And those are the comic shops, I think, that are really strong. Those are the ones that will bounce back. And so I am really impressed by the quality and the tone of what Boom Studios has really put out. I think that it's really fantastic what they have decided to do. And they say, your store is unique, an integral part of the comic book industry. No other comic store can replace the experience of your comic store. I believe that your comic book stores are your customers' third place. And he talks about how he was going to talk about this third place in the Diamond Retailer Summit, but clearly that didn't happen. But he goes on to talk about how we all have two places in our lives. We have our home and we have our job. Everybody has that. And he says this third place is like this special place. And he says for many people, the third place is actually the comic shop. And let me see if I can find the exact quote here. He put it in here. It was actually pretty good. Let me see. He says, the good news is that you don't just sell comic books because you offer your customers something more valuable: community. If your store is a reflection of you, your staff, and the customers you want to fill your store with, that's the third place only you can create. You've created a place where a group of people can be themselves, debate their favorite stories and heroes with friends, share their burdens with a friendly ear, and discover the next amazing story from a trusted source. And the community is the most powerful reason for customers to shop at a comic store. And he says across the world, we've seen members of the community rally to boost their local comic shops. Those customers, the customers you serve, aren't buying your backstock. donating money, signing up for book clubs, or ordering gift cards to save the places they buy comic books and graphic novels from. They're doing it to save their third place. This is really well written. He goes on to talk about how comic shops are community builders. I mean, it is a really long video slash, transcript that he has put together here, but I think it's really, really fantastic because essentially what he is, advocating for is a unified front to move forward, a unified front that continues to support and nurture the comic book industry and local comic shops, all of which I think is really fantastic. So I'm actually going to come back to the chat here, seeing if you guys are talking about some of this stuff now. Let me see if you guys have picked up on some of the stuff that I'm putting down. Dylan says, I couldn't relate. I live in a small town with one comic shop only, but maybe that's the third place. Maybe that's the third place. Maybe you guys were talking about something else. I'm not quite sure if it was tied to me or tied to something else. My man, Alex, the comic hoarder, is in the house. How you doing, brother? Let me scroll up through some of the comments here. Let me see what you guys are talking about. Let me scroll up. Let me see when you walk into a comic book shop and the owner is way too busy to help you because he is way too deep in magic. Again, I completely get where that's coming from. And I think where Boom Studios is coming from is he is basically telling those type of shops, right? Those type of shops that don't have that sense of community, that don't have that sense of customer service. He is basically saying this is your opportunity to hit the reset button, right? As a comic shop owner, this is your opportunity to hit the reset button, to do something different, to be more supportive, to be more friendly, to build a community, to be more receptive to people when they come into your shop. And like if I go into a shop and I'm not greeted, it doesn't hurt my feelings, but it's kind of like, well, do you really want me here? It doesn't cost you anything to say hello or to say good morning or to ask if there's something that I'm looking for. It doesn't cost anything to be courteous, especially to a customer, So I think that this is a really, fantastic kind of thing, because I think so oftentimes there's a lot of finger pointing of you need to do this, you need to do that. And I think what this says to me is that Boom Studios is saying we are behind your local comic shops and we will be there to support you when your new day one happens to occur. But they're also saying there are some things that you also might need to think about, and to some degree or another, he is kind of saying to them, this is what success looks like. Because if you think about it, we can read comics digitally, and I do. And we can buy comics cheaper online, and I do. But I also still go to the comic shop, multiple comic shops, and I have pull lists, and I go there and I chit chat and I interact because I enjoy it. And I think that is an important part that he is trying to signal here, is that community, that sense of customer service, those are all essential elements that will hopefully, if done right, will allow local comic shops to continue to thrive in the future. And if you guys remember, I did an interview where I had Josh, one of my local comic shop owners, actually on the show. And I was telling him that his shop definitively is different from many other comic shops that I've gone to, because he is so hospitable. When you walk in, he speaks to you. He says hello. Even if he's having a conversation with someone, he acknowledges the person that came in, and then will do you need anything? And then he will go back to the conversation. And it is a fantastic environment. And it's a great illustration of what sets one good comic shop apart from some other comic shops that I've been to. So scrolling down through some of the commenters, seeing what else you guys are talking about. What is this? You guys are having a good conversation amongst yourself. So I'm going to continue scrolling down through some of these. Again, if there's things you guys want to talk about, definitely throw it up in all caps, because it'll actually help me to kind of zero in on some of that stuff. Whitewell is in the house. Is he in here? Whitewell, it is good to see you. Thank you. Thank you, brother, for helping me behind the scenes on the various things that are going on around here. So comic shops have been part of our lives. In some cases, like mine, for decades. They hold a special place. I could not disagree with that. I could not disagree with that at all. He says one of mine had gone out of business late last year, and it really hurt me and my daughter, who have been going to them for 5 years. I mean, it happens. I think some people sometimes will look at comic shops going out of business, and I'm not saying suddenly to Kings that you think this, but sometimes when people look and see comic shops going out of business, they think that the industry is in trouble, and sometimes it's just a bad business person. Right. Sometimes the location isn't right, or somebody made some poor decisions, or there was a divorce, or there was an illness. There are lots of reasons that local comic shops go out of business. There's lots of reasons that new comic shops are started. Right. These are the norms of business. And I think they say, what is it? Over 50% or so of businesses, actually new businesses, small businesses actually go out of business within like 5 to 7 years or something like that. So it's not surprising that comic shops pop up and then go away, just like every other business pops up and goes away. It is just part of it, because people have complicated lives and don't always make good decisions, truthfully, or get ill, right? Here, Just Pele, who owns a comic shop, is saying, my customers are my friends, and I'm seriously missing those friends. I heard that, brother. I actually saw somebody put that up the other day, and they were like, I just miss interacting with my customers, my friends, and I think in that Boom Studios statement, he actually said something along the lines of that very thing, so definitely a really solid message from the folks over at Boom Studios, and I applaud them. They are speaking in my opinion, with a lot of compassion and a lot of heart, and also with some sincerity. So I definitely dig that. So scrolling down, brother, my channel is indeed that, because as a parent, man, the thing is I don't want to ever be responsible for exposing someone's child to something that I would not expose my own children to, right? And so I don't curse around my children. I do not at all, because that is not the in my opinion, how I want my children to be raised. And so I don't use curse words around my children, because before you know it, they will say those things out in public, and then people look at you like you're the bad parent, and we are not bad parents. We try to be very good parents. And so because of that, I don't curse around the children, not at all. And I certainly don't want to expose other people's children to that kind of stuff. And I get messages from people all the time like, yeah, I listen to you when I'm in my car or at home with my kids, and my kids sit in my lap and watch you at the same time. Somebody actually sent me a photo. I think it was like 2, 3, 4. I think there might have been 5 children watching me on the big screen talk about comics. And so I don't ever want to expose people's children to anything that is not good. Joe, thanks for hanging out, brother. Good to see you, my friend. Scrolling down through all the comments here. Yeah, see, this is actually a really, this is also an excellent point right here. Adam says 2 out of 3 guys at his LCS have severe social anxiety. It took them about 4 months. This is actually a really good point, because, and I've made this point before on previous videos where I've basically said, are they bad people, or do they just have some anxiety issues or some social awkwardness that they struggle with? And so it could very well be that as well. But part of it is that I think people have to maybe, and this is easier said than done, to challenge themselves, right? It is definitely hard, but if you are in customer service, I think you have to find a way to make some adjustments to your personality, right? Like, I'm an introvert, and a lot of people could never tell that when I was a sales rep, because if I'm a sales rep and I'm going out there to sell something, because that is my job, and I take my job seriously, I became the most extroverted person you have ever seen. And then I would go to my car and I would recharge in my car by myself, right? That's how introverts recharge, alone. And then I would go into the next office with the exact same energy and zeal, right? I could be having the worst day ever, but because I'm working, I cannot let that show. And that is how I kind of manage through it. And so I definitely get people having anxiety issues and personality things, but at the same time, it's your job. It's your job, right? Sometimes you have to challenge yourself to step outside of your comfort zone to get the job done, right? So scrolling down through some of the comments here. What is this? Werewolf by Lunchtime says, every time I walk in my comic shop, I have a 30-minute conversation about comics and life in general. I miss that. Well said. There are days when I would go to a comic shop and I would be in and out just because I'm so busy or the shop owner was busy. There are other days when I'm getting messages from my wife and she's like, "Are you okay? Like, are you coming back home or like what's going on?" Because it can happen easily. It can easily happen. You know, I mean, it happens with this with YouTube because I'll be in here enjoying my conversation and my interaction with you guys, and she'll be like, "Are you coming out of there anytime soon?" And it's just you get lost in the conversation and having fun with folks. So scrolling down, what is this? Something about Bueller. I saw a comment about Bueller. Oh man, it got away from me. The chat can sometimes move pretty quickly. Bueller had me cracking up when his daughter asked, "Who's Reggie?" And Bueller says, "It's somebody I talked to on the internet." That's an incredibly awkward conversation. If anybody hasn't heard about this, I was actually on Comics with Bueller yesterday. I had an opportunity to sit down and chat with Travis just a little bit, and he and I have been friends, for a while. For a while, we go back and forth because we essentially started our channels around the same time, and there were people that looked at us as like a group. There was like a wave of us, and then there was a group that came after, which was like White Whale, John's Comics with Kids, Tony Sanders. There were a few other guys that were in that group. And so there was like these waves, if you will. And I don't know where things are now. I don't know what the third or fourth wave was or whatever. But, that was kind of like my group, right? And those are my compatriots. And so I always identify with Bueller and Comic Tom because we essentially came into this thing around the same time. So scrolling down through some of the comments here, seeing what else you guys are talking about. But yeah, if you guys haven't watched that conversation with myself and Bueller, I definitely want to encourage you to check it out because, it was a good conversation. I think the feedback from that, I think people enjoyed the interaction between he and I. So if you guys get a chance, make sure you check that out. There's an interesting comment here. There are some comic shops that have remained open through all of this. And I actually asked Juan about that. And he made a comment to me about how he said, if GameStop is deemed to be an essential business, if GameStop can be an essential business because there's the escapism that's associated with that, he says, I don't see why a comic shop also couldn't be deemed an essential business. And so I think that's how some comic shops are looking at this. And then we also have to remember that not every comic shop across the country has to follow the exact same rules and all that kind of stuff. Like CGC has been deemed an essential business as well, which is why they're still open down there in Florida. So scrolling through some of the comments here, seeing what else you guys are talking about. Hydra says his 1-year-old son loves watching Reggie with me. That's what's up, man. That's what's up. I would like to say my children are in the other room watching me, but they are not. They are not. One is asleep and one is watching cartoons. Hopefully when they're older. We've actually uninstalled YouTube from all of the devices in the house. We had to do it because there are things that children can get into that we don't think are appropriate for them to watch on YouTube. Like we walked in the other day, a couple of months ago, and my son Carter was actually watching a guy play video games, and he was shooting, people and characters and stuff like that on video games. We were like, nah. My wife's like, we got to take it all off. So she removed everything out of the house. Because again, it's, I have one job. I have one job. My job is to build to basically introduce into the world 2 well-rounded, well-adjusted humans. That is my most important job that I will have. And I take my job seriously. That is my job. Jimbo, how you doing, brother? Welcome to the live stream, my friend. Scrolling down through what is this? Comic bought a gun. Scrolling down through some of the comments here. The thing is, I get you, man. I mean, sometimes, art imitates life, or does life imitate art? I don't know which came first, which came first. I don't know. I don't know that we know the answer to that one. Scrolling down through some of the comments here. My Dylan says, my 3-year-old daughter loves watching anything Batman or Spider-Man. That's what's up, man. I love that. Somebody, I think it was Comic Collection Agency, was telling me about a series that may be like age appropriate. I think he was saying it's like, I think it was saying that it's the Avengers, but it's not the Avengers or something like that. Comic Collection Age, if you're still in the room, throw that up in the comment section so folks can see that. But I think he was suggesting that that might be a really cool cartoon for my kids to watch. And what I was telling him is that at the moment, we've been watching like Voltron as a family, and I don't think that that's all that violent, not really. But I turned it on one day a couple of weeks ago, and before I knew it, all four of us were staring at the TV watching Voltron. So I thought that was pretty cool. That was a pretty cool moment. And my son is like, "Dad, did you watch this when you were a little baby?" That's his big question to me all the time. Did you do this when you were a little baby? Super chat just dropped in here from my man Silver Age Surfer. Thank you, bro. Video for you coming soon, my friend. So stay tuned for that. He says, great interview with Bueller. He's a great host, and linked his random question. Oh, he liked the random question that he did with all his guests this week. Yeah, he threw me for a loop when he was asking about wrestling. I haven't watched wrestling in like decades, but yeah, it was cool. It was cool to chat with Bueller. I don't often go on other YouTubers' channels. And there's lots of reasons for that. And I also don't really have other YouTubers on my channel and haven't really for probably like a year plus. And there's lots of reasons for that. But it's always nice when you can actually have an opportunity to interact with a buddy, you know, and the conversation that he and I had is no different than the conversation that he and I have behind the scenes. It's the exact same thing. Other people, the difference is other people were actually watching this time, you know, but I dig him. He's definitely a good guy. So scrolling down through some of the comments here. There we go. It's a Superhero Squad show. That was the show that my man Comic Collection Agency was telling me about the other day. That might be like a kid appropriate type of show. You know, I'm a big fan of brainwashing children. I'm gonna just be honest with you. I'm a big fan of brainwashing them. My son has various superhero paraphernalia, capes, pajamas, masks, toys, you know, all kinds of stuff. And he readily recognizes several of the Spider-Man villains, you know, so I'm brainwashing him not just for superheroes, but specifically for Marvel, specifically for Spider-Man. I'm gonna just be completely honest, no different for the girl, completely brainwashing them. That is my goal. Again, perfectly well-balanced, comic book loving mini humans. That is my goal. From Heroes to Icons. How you doing, brother? It is good to see you, my friend. Scrolling down through some of the comments here, seeing what else you guys are talking about. Disney Plus Marvel action section is mostly, yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I actually bought that, the 3-year package. So there's a lot of really good stuff in there. So scrolling down, and actually I need to actually get out and buy some Miles Morales. I was talking about this the other day. I need to buy some Miles Morales, and maybe some Spider-Gwen for my kids, because I think that they may end up, if they really enjoy superheroes and that kind of stuff, they may gravitate towards those characters. They're younger, they're spider related, not too far off with dad with Peter Parker and Spider-Man. So I need to shore up my inventory of those two characters, because at present I have 0. Scrolling down through what was that comment here? Yeah, Bueller's mostly a nut. I mean, he is mostly a nut. Yeah, he brings out the worst in me. I'm gonna just be honest. Johnny Quest, Brandon Keefe talking about Johnny Quest. That's what's up. Let me scroll down through the comments, see what else you guys are talking about. Man, I was watching not G.I. Joe, because I haven't been able to find that on TV, but I was watching old Transformers, and it is still really good. My boy watches Transformers. He watches the new stuff, right? Sideswipe and some of that other stuff, but he recognizes Bumblebee and Optimus Prime and stuff like that, which is really cool. Closet Geek, how you doing, brother? It is good to see you. My son got his first set of Spider-Man pajamas. His response was, like that. Please tell me you have the onesie. Do you have the onesie Hydra Collectibles over there in the UK? Do you have the Spider-Man onesie over there with the feet in it? The like daddy is hilarious. Oh my goodness. You got, I know what you're talking about now. Oh yeah. When I showed up, man, with comic books with guns and slightly inappropriate dress for certain figures that they had to tape up. Let me scroll down through what you guys are talking about. So we spent some time earlier in this live stream talking about the statements that have come out from Boom Studios, right? So Boom Studios released a cool video. I haven't watched the video, which is right here on Newsarama's website, but I did read the transcript of the video, and it was actually pretty interesting because he spends some time basically in this article talking about the fact that comic shops will have a new day one, right? They will have an opportunity to essentially hit the reset button and to really begin to foster this community, this idea of community. And he says that it's this idea of community that comic shops actually sell. He's like, you don't really sell new comics. You don't really sell old issues. You don't really sell toys. What you sell is community, right? Which I think is really, really interesting. It's a really interesting concept that he's talking about here. And he's basically saying, you guys have an opportunity to hit the reset button and to come back stronger and better than ever by focusing on community and focusing on customer service. And I think it's a really telling article that not article, but transcript video that the president of Boom Studios has put out. And if you guys want to take some time to read this thing, I actually read it at the beginning of this live stream to you, at least excerpts from it. It is actually really compelling. So if you get a chance, check it out. I think it's pretty awesome what these guys are trying to do. So super chat just popped in from JR112. Thank you, brother. I definitely appreciate that. I can't see the super sticker. I can't see those on my side because of the interface that I'm using, but I definitely appreciate you you hitting me with the super chat. I definitely appreciate that. Brandon Keefe talking about IDW over here. A couple of people thanking JR112 for that super chat. I definitely appreciate that. So one other thing that I wanted to kind of share with you guys before we just get back to our random cooler talk is I wanted to show this. And DC is continuing to kind of evolve things, and they are now actually releasing more and more titles through this direct market distribution thing. So one of the issues, if you will, that I had with some of their previous announcements was that they were basically like, hey, we're going to divide the country up, if you will, North America. We're going to divide it up between these two distributors, and we're going to release, I think it was like 7 books this week, and then we're going to release a couple more the next week. That was as much as we knew at the time. But I think about an hour or so ago, they released some additional details around what their next steps are, at least as it relates to titles. And basically what they showed here, and I want to try to make this a little bit bigger for you guys if I can. What they basically announced is that they're actually going to be releasing some additional titles now through this new distribution model that they've set up. And they basically highlighted a ton of books. Deceased Unkillables is going to be coming out. Flash 754, Batman Beyond number 43. And I actually started reading Batman Beyond earlier today, and I'm kind of enjoying that one. But Red Hood Outlaw number 45, Suicide Squad number 5, The Terrifics is actually going to be coming out. Basket Full of Heads number 7. That's a series that a lot of people are really starting to enjoy. Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy is going to be coming out. New Teen Titans is going to be dropping. They're coming out with Year of the Villain, Hell Risen number 3. And I think that this is the 3rd printing that is also going to be dropping. So they're actually continuing to kind of expand the books that they are going to be releasing via these distributors. And again, this was one of the things that I kind of struggle with, is the notion that comic shops are going to be saved by 7 books or 10 books or whatever it is. Again, I'm just reacting to what I'm seeing and hearing. And I think as they continue to release additional details, things start to make a little bit more sense, right? They're basically still going to be releasing even more books. Now, they did not give release dates for those books. They did not give release dates. They simply said these books are books that will be available via these 2 new distributors. And my guess is that they want to get closer to when Diamond is going to be up and running, because again, I'm playing off of what I'm hearing is that they're still going to release new comics through the 3 distributors at the same time. And so I think that that's part of what they're waiting for, to give those actual dates, because they want them to be released across all three distributors at the same time. So the thing continues to evolve. It is almost day by day, how this thing is actually going to shake out. I don't know what the future holds. I really do not know what the future holds, but I wanted to at least share some additional information with you guys. So there you go. Natasha's in the house from the Netherlands. Natasha, how you doing? It is good to see you. A couple of people in here talking about Thundercats. I did a brief chat about that in the Go Collect weekly recap a couple of weeks ago. They were talking about the 80s and 90s commercials, make cartoons and toys and stuff like that making a comeback. So they were talking about Voltron and He-Man and some of these other things that many of us actually grew up with, may actually be coming back. And that's when somebody hit me to Voltron being on Netflix. So I went over, checked it out, man, and it is incredible. I have to tell you, it is incredible. So Voltron, see what else you guys are talking about. What does it say? I'm not sure how the books that DC are sending out will get to customers. My comic shops are closed down. Can't shop there even if I wanted to. Yeah, that's the thing. Is it part of it is that if you listen to what DC has put out thus far, they basically said that there are still roughly 2,000 comic shops that are open. Now, the challenge is those comic shops may not be close to you, but they're basically like, hey, we are going to distribute. And part of me thinks what's going to happen is it's going to open up in phases, just like everything else, right? Certain states are opening up. And my feeling is that they are going to potentially start releasing books to these new distributors, then start releasing books to these new distributors plus Diamond. And as states potentially start to loosen up restrictions, some of the local comic shops may also start to open up with, maybe they're now deemed an essential business. Maybe they'll only be doing mail order. Maybe they will allow you, like Comic Figures and Addicts, they now launched a website so you can actually order through the website as well. So I think that if Diamond starts to ship, I think you could see some comic shops start to react. Now, one of the other things that I've been kind of noodling in my head is that what's happening right now may also be an interesting opportunity for speculation. And I know people have strong opinions about speculation, but it could present with an interesting opportunity for speculation, because if you think about if there is a book that comes out and it's actually a really popular book or has something interesting happen in it, and a lot of comic shops actually aren't open, then what happens to the print runs and the distribution of that particular comic? Everything might get a little smaller, right? We don't know that they're still going to be printing, and I'm making this up, 100,000 of a book. They may be printing much, much smaller quantities, which means that there could be some speculative value associated with these smaller print runs for some of these books that are going to be coming out. I don't know if that's true, but that's something that's been, in my head. And I heard just recently that DC has announced a 1 in 25 variant for, what is it, Batman 92, which is, I think, is the first cover featuring Punchline, right? They just released they had just announced a 1 in 25 variant for Punchline's first cover appearance. And so with that, if the print run is smaller for that, then the number of variants, because it's a 1 in 25 variant, would also be smaller. And if local comic shops aren't open or are able to receive books and sell books, then what happens with some of those things? So it's something to at least be aware of, something to be at least aware of, to kind of think about. Comic Collection Agency says no LCS where I'm from, but a 45-minute drive will take you to the Bay Area. Man, the Bay Area is indeed the comic book belt. There is no doubt about that, man. There are comic book shops everywhere for certain. And young Matthew's trying to connect with you to find out where you're from. A couple of people are asking me about the next Garage Con. We may do it. Once we're beyond this shelter in place stuff, we may be able to actually make some magic happen. So low print runs plus high demand equals higher prices. Regie is such a... It's true, though. It's true. And the thing is that I started to have these thoughts, and then I saw the first wave of books that was actually coming out from DC, and I'm like, well, I don't, those books aren't really popular, so I don't know if there's going to be any speculative value in some of those. But now they're talking about a third print run of Hell Risen #3. Now you're starting to talk a little sexy there, you know. So it could be interesting to see what happens, especially if they start to release some of these books that people actually are interested in. Because the first wave, as you look at that list, I don't even know if anybody's actually reading any of those books. So release them. I don't think anybody's going to care, much less will there be demand for those. But again, if you start to talk about more titles, you start talking about some really cool stuff happening in those books, there could be some magic there. There could be some magic there. And so as a result of that, you could see some increased demand. You could see some increases in prices because of the scarcity, the true scarcity, and maybe even rarity, if you will, of some of those books. So there was a comment here. If low print runs equal higher prices, keep in mind all UK pence. Yeah, I mean, that's true. That's true, but there's also the desirability. And a lot of people don't necessarily desire Pence comics because they also don't necessarily understand them, right? And so that's also, it's not always, and we know that it's not always about the absolute low print run, but if it's a popular thing that people understand and it's in short supply, then that's where the magic actually happens. So it's not as simple as that, but it's a little bit more than just that. So scrolling down through, that Batman Damn 92 is sitting in Diamond's warehouse. Make no mistake. But here's the thing. The issue I thought was that they just announced the 1 in 25. So was the 1 in 25 printed at the same time, or was it printed after? I honestly don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that because I heard that it was just announced. Does that mean that it had already been printed, or that they are now printing it or have printed it? You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to wrap my mind around the rationale behind that one. But again, even if it's been printed and sitting there, if a comic shop can't receive it, then what happens, right? There is always more that is printed than what is actually sold and what is ultimately bought. There's always that cascade, right, of the filter down. So again, if some of these books exist but they're never distributed, I don't know. Something to kind of think about. Scrolling down through some of the comments. Yeah, so supposedly if you go to DC's website, they have a map of some of the local comic shops that are open. And if you read the Newsarama article, they were basically saying these are the same comic shops that are actually going to have these new books. I don't believe that's true. I don't believe that that's true. I think that DC's website basically says these are the shops that are open. Now, which of those shops are going to have accounts set up with one of those distributors and thus be able to receive those books? I don't know the answer to that. I really don't. My guess is that either DC and or the distributors and or the local comic shops are going to signal in some way, shape, or form that they actually have those books and are receiving those books from those distributors. I don't know. These are some of the great questions that people have, that that I don't have answers to, because I really do not know. Really do not know what's going on. What did someone say? New sub? He is definitely all about the pence. Nico 413 says 413 says new sub here. What's up, man? It's good to see you, brother. Welcome to the live stream. Definitely appreciate that. Thank you. Glad you guys enjoyed that, man. I literally just recorded next week's video last night for Go Collect. That my videos are basically 1 week behind, and so I recorded next week's video last night, sent it off to them, and so they're going to be working some magic, making me look good and all that kind of stuff. But definitely stay tuned for that. But for those that don't know, I actually host a show over on Go Collect, where every single week I basically recap some of these fantastic blog posts that are being written by bloggers. And these bloggers write really, in many cases, really fantastic articles about speculation, about various topics related to Marvel and DC and the various streaming services and the movies that exist. And I basically recap some of that stuff and put it out there in a video format. But I think people enjoy some of those videos. So I definitely appreciate you guys checking those things out. And there's also some other things that I'm working on with several others that you guys may be hearing about in the near future as well. So all right, so I may go ahead and wrap this thing every Wednesday. There you go. That 1 in 25 they sneak it on. I pay attention, then we miss out. Let me see. I'm scrolling through some of the comments here. Dragon Ball's up in here. DC is playing the dirt. Oh man, that is hilarious. That is hilarious. Diamond Man is there. Hey, they're doing their thing, man. They're doing their thing. Here we go. So here we have some updated information from Heroes to Icons. I definitely appreciate that. He says, I just looked it up. That 1 in 25 of Batman 92, that was in the printer before quarantine. Also, most websites were sold out, I'm guessing. There you go. Thank you for that, brother. I definitely appreciate you pulling in some new information. That definitely helps me because, again, there's a lot of nuance to some of this stuff, and I definitely don't know everything. So I definitely appreciate you you taking the time to look that one up. But again, the 1 in 25 variant is out there. It is, I think, available in some way, shape, or form. When it's going to release, we don't quite know. And will your local comic shops have it? Again, that's something that we actually don't know. So there we go. There we go. Love your Go Collect videos. I've been reading all of the blog posts. That's what's up, man. I mean, that's what's, that's one of the things that I do enjoy about that video that I do for Go Collect is that it gives me an opportunity to expose myself to some things that I normally would not necessarily read or know about, that being a lot of the DC stuff, right? So in order for me to do a video talking about some of this stuff, I actually have to read it. And if I have to read it, I want to try to understand it, right? And so I think that that's one of the cool things about doing that series is that it prompts me to read these blog posts. It prompts me to start learning more about some of those characters that I don't really focus on because they're not just, natural to me. So it sounds like the videos are also helpful for other people, right? Which I think is really good. And there are some bloggers that are really, really good. There's a blog post that I'll be talking about next week that someone did that I think is really spectacular. There's actually two that I think are really spectacular, but you'll have to tune in next week to the Go Collect channel here on YouTube to find out what I'm talking about. How about that for a cliffhanger? All right, so I am going to wrap this thing up. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me just a little bit. I may go live later today, maybe tomorrow. I don't know. I'm gonna have to play it by ear, but definitely stay tuned because I may do a little something. I don't know. I'll have to figure it out. But I want to thank you for hanging out with me just a little bit. I hope that you enjoyed this chat. And if you did, I want to encourage you to hit the thumbs up button. And if you are here now and you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, I definitely want to encourage you to do that so that you can stay abreast of all the content that I release from the channel. One other reminder, the first place for the 7,000 subscriber giveaway, the first place still has not been claimed. If you are in second, third, fourth, or fifth place, I need you to send me an email with your full contact information because each one of you basically will have a week in order to claim your prize. So first place has not claimed it. So we're going to keep this thing moving forward. If I don't hear from them, this book will be going out to second place. So if you are in second place, you definitely want to send me an email to Regie@regiecollects.com because that book may actually be yours. This might actually be yours. So I need you to make sure you send me that information if you're in that top 5 so I can have that. And then this is this week's Go Collect giveaway. Looks very much the same. 9.6 over there. This is an 8.5. If you haven't yet watched the videos that have come out from the channel over the course of this week, you definitely want to watch those videos because you might actually have an opportunity to win that book. And I will be announcing the winner of that this coming Sunday as part of the Ready, Set, Go preview show. The reminder is already up there for you guys to be able to check that out this coming Sunday. All right. With that, like I said, if you need to reach out to me, feel free to do so. You can do it on Instagram at Regie Collects, or you can send me an email to Regie@regiecollects.com. Take care.